بسم الله. الحمد لله وكفى وسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى. أما بعد، قال الله سبحانه وتعالى: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. يوصيكم الله في أولادكم للذكر مثل حظ الأنثيين. صدق الله العظيم. So before we carry on, I think we'll just do a very quick recap, because obviously this is probably new for many of you. Those few minutes, it might be quite difficult to grasp onto some of the concepts. But what we'll try and do is, I'll just mention again that there's three types. We'll ignore the third one. So the two we're going to concentrate on are the furud, which are the ones whose shares are fixed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Their shares are specifically mentioned in the Quran. These fractions that you can see that I mentioned yesterday. These 6 are mentioned in the Quran. And you have these 5 here in this first column. They will always inherit. Now, the remaining 7, they may or may not inherit, depending on who else is alive or present. And you'll notice, if you look at all of the names, all of the people, there are only 4 males and there's 8 females. Make a note of that. Yeah, that's something to ponder over as well. Just check. Yeah, and this allati refers to when you have, so you have aini, which is or haqiqi, both the mother and the father is the same. And if you have the same father and a different mother, then that's known as allati. And akhyafi is when it's the same mother and different father. Okay, so those are also furud. And then you have the asabat, and the ruling for the asabat is they take whatever is remaining, the residual, the residue, they take everything else that's left over. And the way that works is that one single person or group of people who are all the same, so for example, sons or grandsons, brothers, well, you can't have fathers, obviously, you know, one father, but uncles, which are all the same type of uncle, cousin, etc., all count as one, and they will take everything that's left. But the way it works is as a hierarchy. So you look at the first box, you exhaust everything in that. So if there's a son, then everyone else gets nothing. Yeah? Anyone else gets nothing. But if there's no son, then you go to the grandson, which is the son's son. Yeah? And if there's a grandson, then anyone else who comes afterwards, they will get nothing, and so on. Right? If there's no sons, grandsons, or great grandsons, etc., then you go on to the next one, which is ascendants. So you go to the father. There's no father, grandfather. If there's no grandfather, great grandfather. Yeah. Then, if there's no ascendants, no descendants, no ascendants, then you move on to the next one, yeah, which is the father's descendants. In other words, the brother and his children, yeah, so nephew and etc. And if that's also exhausted, meaning there's no one alive or there was no one present, the grandfathers, which is, so you go up to the grandfather and his child, obviously his child being the father, is alive or he's not alive, so it will be the uncle. Yeah, in other words, father's brother. Yeah? The father's brothers, and if they're not present or not alive, then below them, yeah, the cousins. Yeah, they'll be the cousins. Yeah, in other words, the father's brother's children, sons. And if all of these are there's no one alive, then there's different rules. That's beyond the scope of this presentation. So, I will skip this because it's not that important. Not many people get to this stage anyway. Okay, so let's look at some of the rules. Actually, there's one point I just want to mention quickly. Uh, here, uh, so you have the son. So if the son is alive, then the grandson doesn't receive anything. So now, if you have the situation where you have a father, he has 3 sons. Now, one of those sons passes away. So if that son passes away, and then later on the father passes away, children of that third son, the one who's passed away, do not receive anything. Do you understand? Because there's 2 sons. The 2 sons are alive, so because of the 2 sons, the grandson or grandsons don't receive anything. This is why it's important to know this fact. Now, if the father knew this before he passed away, what he would do, or he should do, is wasiyah, use the wasiyah, because you can't give wasiyah to the people who are all your warith. So in other words, those who already inherit. But the ones who do not inherit, obviously it will be very useful for that family, because they don't have a father already anyway, so they've only got a single income or maybe no income. So what the father can do before he passes away is make a wasiyah, make a will, and in there he will say that I want some portion of that, of that 1/3 I'm allowed. I want some. He will designate some portion to those grandsons of his. Understand? And one other point is that in the Wasiyah is also very beneficial and useful and recommended to give nasiha advice to your children and mention in the advice relating to tawheed and being punctual, amal, etc. Maybe even mention about someone who's done good to you, who's been very good to you, and you make sure you treat them well, etc. and so on and so forth. One other person you could also include is an adopted or a foster child, because they don't inherit. Only your blood relatives inherit. So if you have a foster child and you want to give something to them, then make sure you include that as well. Okay, so first of all, the father, for him, if there's no male, if there are male offspring, so in other words, sons, grandsons, etc., then he will receive 1/6. Now the father is very unique because he is from the Dhul Furud and he's also from the Asabat. So he specifically has a share, which is 1/6. But on top of that, if there's no male children, so in other words, the sons, grandsons, etc., then the father will actually also take the remaining portion. So this is where the second scenario comes in. He will receive his 1/6 plus the residue, whatever's left over as well. Okay. And obviously, if there are children, grandchildren, etc., then he'll be the asabat, he'll receive what's left over. And the grandfather is exactly the same as the father, except if the father is present, he receives nothing at all. Remember that hierarchy I mentioned? Yeah. So he receives exactly the same as the father if the father isn't alive. Otherwise, he receives nothing. Okay, the mother is either 1/3 or 1/6. Right? So if there's no offspring, so there's no children, and there's no there's 2 or more, so less than, so fewer than two brothers or sisters from any direction, then she will receive 1/3. Otherwise, it'll be 1/6. Okay, the daughter. If there's one daughter and there's no son, then she receives half of the entire wealth. If there's no son and there's 2 or more, then they will share in 2/3 of the wealth. So if there's 2, they'll receive 1/3 each. If there's 3, they'll share in 2/3, and so on. And if there's a son present, one son or more sons, then they will all share. So then she will actually come out of that half, 2/3, whatever, and she will become the asaba with her brother or brothers, and they will all be combined together at the end, and they will share in the total, whatever that is, as 2 to 1, 2 to 1 ratio. So that each son will receive 2, 2, 2, and each daughter will receive 1, 1, 1. Okay? The husband and the wife, this is the second ayah, which is and in the, if there's, for the husband, if there's children, if there's no children, he receives 1/2. If there's children, he will receive 1/4. For the wife, it's one step below. In other words, no children, children 1/8. Okay, so I'll say that again. No children for the husband, 1/2 if there's no children, and 1/4 if there's children. And for the wife, 1/4 if there's no children, and 1/8 if there's children. I'm not sure if I should include this. It's getting a bit complicated now. Right, this is actually simplified. Yeah, this is actually even more scenarios than this. Right, but I'll try to simplify as much as possible. Yeah. So if there's one sister and there's no brother, no father, no grandfather, no children. Yeah. So you imagine there's no ascendants. Then she will receive 1/2. Yeah, the sister will receive 1/2. Again, exactly the same, but there's 2 or more sisters, then they will receive a share in the 2/3. And obviously, if the son is also present, yeah, but with no grandfather, father, etc., then they will share the 2:1 ratio, 2:1 ratio, as the son and the father, I mean the son and the daughter would, right? But obviously, there's no son and daughter. So here, the brother and the sister will combine together as a 2:1 ratio. But if there's any ascendants or descendants, remember this very simple rule: when it comes to brothers and sisters, if there's any ascendants or descendants, they receive nothing. Okay, it's very simple that in that sense. Yeah, father, grandfather, etc., sons, daughters, etc. Right? Then the male offspring really, because there is a scenario where they could potentially receive some with daughters. Okay, so let's go for some examples. Again, I've missed out so many of the rules. I'll just try to keep it very simple and some of the very basic ones. Okay, so you have a and a father. So remember, or you wrote something down. Yeah. So if there's a husband and a father, what does a husband receive? Remember, there's no children. Half, yeah, half. And what does the father receive? There's no children. There's a son. No. There's no son. So he now becomes, yeah, from the asubat, yeah. So he will receive what was left over. And if you take 1/2 of what's left, yeah. So what would you make that out of? How many shares do you have to, what's the total? The total would be 2, yeah. So you can split it. When you want to split it, you want a full number. So what would the total be? 2. Yeah, and each one will receive 1 each. Does that make sense? You follow? Okay, this is the first example. Maybe let's hopefully you got used to it now. Example 2. You have wife and a son. Remember, there's a son. So what does the wife receive? 1/8. 1/8. Sumun, yeah. Because there's a son, there's a child, so you receive 1/8. Yeah. And what would the son receive? Remember, the son is from the asabat, not from the furuz. He doesn't have a fixed portion, so he receives, yeah, the residue, whatever's left over. Okay. How many shares will you make? 8. Yeah. Straightforward. Yeah. I've chosen the simplest examples possible. So the wife will receive from the 8. The wife will receive 1, and the son will receive 7. Okay, not 8. otherwise we go over. Yeah, 1 and 7. 1 plus 7 equals 8. Okay, is that clear? Okay, a bit more complicated. A wife, a daughter, and a brother. Okay, I've chosen this example so it fits, make it a bit easier, the maths easier. Yeah. So the wife, the daughter, and brother. Because there's a daughter, how much of the wife? 1/8 again. Yeah. Maybe someone else give an answer. Yeah. So I can see everyone's following. A daughter. Yeah. She will receive, because there's no son and there's one daughter, she will receive half. Yeah. Okay. And what does the brother receive? What is he? He will receive the remaining. Okay. So how much can you make that out of? What's the, yeah, because 2 goes into 8. Yeah, to worry about any bigger numbers. Yeah, so 2 goes into 8, so we can make it out of 8. Okay, and the wife would receive 1/8 out of the 8. She will receive 1. The daughter will receive half of 8, which will be 4, and whatever is left over is 3. Yeah, so 1 plus 4 plus 3 is 8. Yeah, so the brother will receive 3. Okay. A final example. So we've got enough time for questions. Sure. A husband and 2 sisters. A husband and 2 sisters. Okay. No children. So what does the husband receive? Nis. Walakum nisfu. Yeah. If there's no children, then the husband receives half. Sisters. 2 sisters. Yeah. What will they receive? There's 2 sisters. No. No. Yeah. 2/3. 2/3. Yeah. Remember when there's like we had with the daughter as well. Yeah. When there's 1, they receive half, and when there's 2 or more, then they share in 2/3. They share in 2/3. So likewise with the 2 sisters here, because there's no etc. Then the 2 sisters will share in 2/3. But because obviously there's 2 of them, they'll receive 1/3 each. Now, what can you make that out of? Yeah, 3 and 2 don't go into each other, so you have to multiply and make it out of 6. Okay, so far so good. Now, what's half of 6? 3. What's 2/3 of 6? 4. So 4 is 7. So we have a problem here. I chose this example on purpose just to introduce a new concept to you, which is known as awl. Yeah. So what happens here is that when the shares exceed the number, then what you do is very simple. You just increase the proportion. So in other words, the 6 then just becomes a 7. That's it. So the husband doesn't receive 1/2, he receives 3/7, 3 shares of 7. And the sisters don't share in 2/3. They actually get 4/7 or 2/7 each. Okay, is that clear? Okay. This topic of inheritance, this is basically very basic. I'll try to make it as simple as possible. Just introduce the concept. More than anything else is the emphasis on the importance of inheritance and the huge number of mistakes which are made, and even by those people who are even a little bit concerned about deen. Yeah. Unfortunately, you find so many people who don't practice, and on this one, they might practice on many other parts of deen. When it comes to this, for some reason, and it's not something that they're not even going to benefit from it. They're passed away. Yeah. So they will be punished about something which other people will benefit from. Yeah. What is the logic in that? So it's very important. It's unfortunately very neglected. we need to bring about a culture of Sharia when it comes to inheritance. Yeah, break off all these other false cultures and things which are un-Islamic and against Sharia, and bring what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed in the Quran. Okay, so these shares are prescribed and fixed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which again, furthermore, further points to the importance of this of inheritance. And it's necessary that we make a will, especially living in this country, and we shouldn't delay in this. Yeah, we shouldn't let 3 nights even pass where we haven't got a will. Now, if we didn't know, we mentioned it yesterday, or maybe some of you weren't here yesterday. Now you know. Monday, inshallah, we should have a will. Many common mistakes, most often, or the most common, is that the females are deprived of the inheritance, or they receive very a small portion. Sometimes what people do is that they don't give them the inheritance. When they get married, they'll give them some gift. Yeah, some very, in comparison to their entire wealth, is very small, but it might be considered expensive gift at the time of the wedding. And then go, right, I got rid of you. That's effectively what we're saying. Yeah, I don't want anything to do with you anymore. Right? When it comes to my inheritance, it's only my sons that are going to receive. You're going to receive anything. That's the attitude which many men have, unfortunately, and women as well. Yeah, mothers have the same attitude as well, unfortunately. Yeah, we must give the inheritance according to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed. And if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that the daughter receives half, or the daughter receives 2/3, then they must receive that much. Yeah. How can we go against the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Yeah. So like I said, it's a very it's a quick summary. Yeah. So we need more time to learn about all the rules. The rules I mentioned were very few compared to how many there are. For example, some of them have 7 different scenarios. Yeah. And even the one I mentioned, I simplified it as well. So there's many more rules and many more examples we can go through. So we need more time to learn all of this. Right? So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us a true understanding of His deen, and to bring again the culture of Sharia when it comes to inheritance, avoid and eradicate all the mistakes and injustice that happens in our communities. If there are any questions, feel free to ask. So this is a question regarding witnesses. So the witnesses the usual two male witnesses, or 1 male witness, 2 female witnesses. It'd be a good idea to avoid any disputes or any arguments afterwards if they were independent witnesses. So there's no accusation of bias and so on. Okay, this question is actually a good question. Do the contents of the will need to be disclosed to the witnesses, or can it remain hidden? For example, if they are qada salah, qada fast, etc., and you want to keep that secret. That's actually a good question. I'd have to get back to you on that to make sure, to verify that. Okay. Any other questions from here? I had a question yesterday. Give a few more seconds. So no more questions, then we'll conclude. Okay. So.
And if there is any questions, then there's an email address that's been put on the forwarded message before, so they can just email the email address that's on there, or get in touch with the Ashrafia Mosque website. There's an email address there. They can ask the question, and inshallah we'll forward it to Mufti Sahib, inshallah. Okay, inshallah, dua time now as well, so inshallah we'll wrap up. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi, subhanahu.